My name is Tennyson Stead. This is the 8-Sided Blog. And I would like to talk a little bit about my personal frustrations with the film finance process today. This is going to be a little bit more of a sort of personal insights and issues conversation. So put your helmets on, kids. Here we go. Financing quantum theory has been a long process, and it's something that I started before the brain injury. So I've been knee-deep in what makes this film work and what makes 8-sided films work financially for quite some time. And the biggest problem is actually one of marketing. There's a conflict, there's a disconnect, and this is a problem I need to solve between what makes people invest in risky investments on the one hand and what makes my production company function well on the other. There's a big disconnect there. And to understand why this is a problem, we need to talk a little bit about how risk works to begin with, okay? What makes an investment risky is not necessarily what makes an investment good or bad. A risky investment is an investment where things can go wrong, okay? And where the investor doesn't have a lot of control over whether or not they go wrong. Functionally, the most conservative investments are the investments that are either secured against risk or where the investor has the ultimate say in every little detail. Real estate is an investment where you can buy and sell land, and you can do anything with that land once you've purchased it. It's yours to develop as you see fit, and you can do everything from apply for zoning changes to build things on it, to destroy things, or whatever you want, ultimately within the boundaries of the law. And loans, on the other hand, are investments where the outcome is guaranteed over a certain time frame. And those guarantees are secured against other assets. There's other money that's going to pay back the loan if the money from the actual business transaction doesn't work out, okay? These are what's called conservative investments. They're on one side of the risk sort of scale, spectrum, okay? And in the middle of the spectrum, you've got the stock market. Now, if you buy a stock, you can sell it, okay? You can't do other things. You can't run the company necessarily unless you buy a whole lot of stock, but that's a different kind of transaction. You can sell it when you want to, you have that control, and as a result, there's more risk. Risk and reward go together. You can make, theoretically, more money in the stock market than you can make buying real estate or doing loans. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work. But you have less control over the outcome, and a lot of things can go wrong without you. If the company could decide anything, and you don't necessarily have more than your one little vote to affect that outcome, okay? When you're making an investment that relies on, for example, the strength of our community and the strength of our craft to create a return on that investment, the investor has no control and no liquidity. They don't have the ability to pull the money out, because if someone comes and hands me a bunch of money to make a movie, I'm going to turn around and spend that money on actors, and so I'm going to hand that money to people who need to use it. And as soon as the money's gone, it's been turned into assets that can't be liquidated. So the investor is stuck until we turn around and we sell movie tickets and we turn those assets back into money, and there's no guarantee that that's ever going to happen. The investor is literally getting paid to sit and wait, and to the extent that they are getting paid. You see what I'm saying? They're getting paid if indeed the investment works. They're getting paid for taking that risk. And theoretically, the money that they can make is much greater than in the stock market and much greater than they can make in real estate. That's how risk functions. So what makes a risky investment good is whether or not it's likely to pay out. Not necessarily all the things that can go wrong, but whether those things are effectively managed to establish the likelihood of success. Now, who would make such an investment where the outcome is not guaranteed, but where the likelihood of making larger amounts of money than you would make in other investments in other markets is sort of the attraction to the investment? I've worked with investment brokers who very specifically do all of their prospecting in Vegas, and successfully so, who go to the casinos and meet people and talk to them about investing in film as an alternative to throwing their money away at the gambling tables. And I would have my questions about whether or not that transaction meets the needs of the Securities and Exchange Commission. But, in a larger sort of sense, obviously, you're going to find a lot of appeal in this kind of investment structure for gamblers and people who like the stakes themselves as the core appeal of the investment. And this is a big part of how and why people talk about high risk investments as though it's like playing, at the craps table. And there's nothing glamorous about what I'm trying to do. The kind of investor who is going to take a flyer or roll the dice, so to speak, that kind of investor wants to be treated like a whale at a casino. That person is looking for the premieres. That person is looking for the expensive dinners. That person's looking to meet celebrities. That person's out there trying to create an experience for themselves. And that's really why they're throwing the money around. They're throwing it around for the adrenaline, and they're throwing it around for the perks that come along the way. I'm not hiring actors that people know. I'm hiring actors that are going to be on the road with me while this movie builds its audience. And as a result, these are not actors that investors want to meet. And as a result, I have to really dig deep to find people who are willing to take the time and invest the energy to sort of build an understanding of what to expect from show business and how show business actually functions and what makes a show business enterprise successful in the first place. Because you don't need to know those things if what you're looking for is a thrill ride. And I absolutely can't provide that thrill ride. There's a square peg round hole problem going on here that I'm dealing with. I don't know how it's going to be resolved. The good news is that I'm talking to producers and executive producers who really appreciate the work that I'm doing and who understand the fundamental common sense of it, and who are, on my behalf, reaching out to folks that they think might be interested in finding a film project that demonstrates the likelihood of... The problem is that I'm a boring person, fundamentally, and my investment is a boring investment, and that should be a good thing, and it's not. Anyway, that's my issue with film finance right now. I'm not complaining. I understand why this problem exists. And if someone is looking for a boring investment, they're probably not looking to make the kind of money that I'm hoping to provide. But finding that person who is thinking strategically and tactically about getting those kinds of returns on investment, and who at the same time is attracted to risky investments and who wants to expand their portfolio quickly, it's a little bit of a unicorn. It's a little bit of a unicorn. And it's a problem I created. So I'm working on solving it. I just wanted to get that off my chest. So that's what we talked about this week. And I hope it opened a little bit of a window into kind of the process that I'm dealing with, if nothing else, and helps educate people about the business of film just a little bit more. That's kind of what I hope we all get from this. If you like what you're getting from these videos, please click the like button. Please click the subscribe button. Click the little bell so you get your alert and that you know when the next Stateside blog is coming your way. And thank you for showing up. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week.